What's up everyone, my name is Mike, welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to be talking about a crazy drop coming up this Saturday, the Aston Martin James Bond DB5, highest list price, lowest amount of editions. If you get this is going to be life-changing for you. It's also the most difficult thing I'm going to predict in terms of that short-term pricing, if and when this even hits the market. So let's get into this. So let's talk about the collectibles first thing. We get two drops this Saturday, 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time and then 12 p.m. The 8 a.m. is a single collectible. It's an ultra rare static Aston Martin DB5 from James Bond. And it has a high list price of 307 gems, but low edition number of 2,507. So obviously they're still playing off that 07 or at least the 007 for this. And this is a first edition as well. To be honest, like I've said in the past, I'm not a huge 007 fan. I do enjoy 007 movies, never read the books. And additionally, I'm not that much of a car enthusiast, but this one is definitely an iconic one for sure, as is any James Bond vehicle. But with these, there's nothing about scale just yet that I can quite see. So we don't know if it's a 1-to-1 or what it might be. Additionally, this first drop for just this ultra rare, it gets the first edition and series 1. The second drop gets a series 2, but it's still a first edition, which is a little bit confusing with how they're doing that, but it makes sense why they're doing that, because that second drop is a lot more gems for the list price. And we'll talk about that second drop next, but let's stick on this first drop. What do we have to compare this to? Well, for this, I'm going to stick with the 007 vehicles or other collectibles that are on the app. And right off the bat, in terms of edition numbers, I'm going to compare this to the Glider Ultra Rare. It has 307 editions, so 500 more than this vehicle, but it was animated, and this initial drop of this Aston Martin is going to be static. Still, I think the edition number is a little bit more important until we have a little bit more utility with whatever that animations brings us. That being said, at the time of recording this, that Glider Ultra Rare animated is sitting around 440 gems as a floor price, and it had a list price of 197 gems. With less editions, and I think a larger audience for cars and car enthusiasts wanting to get in on this, I think this car has a larger audience than that Glider for collectibles, as well as a larger audience than that Triumph motorcycle. And we saw that that Triumph motorcycle actually outprices the Glider when we're talking about rares, because that rare Triumph motorcycle had a little bit more additions and it got the rare stamp as opposed to the ultra rare stamp. So we're talking comparing that Triumph motorcycle rare to the Glider rare, which was a static. So let's talk this list price through a little bit here. If the Glider costs 197, it's selling for 440. We have a multiple of 2.23 to get from that list price over to that floor price currently where it's sitting at. So if we take that multiple of 2.23 and we multiply it by the list price of 307 for this car, we get a floor price of around 685 if you go off of that. There's other things to consider though, with that being that the car has a larger audience, I believe, for it, as well as a lower edition amount. And I'm talking short term, as I always say, these are short term predictions, and I'm talking hours after the drop, when the dust settles on the market and supply catches up to that demand, to about days and maybe even a week after. This is a really short term prediction, because we just don't know what's going to happen mid to longer term with VeVe. So for this short term, I'm going to say around 900 to about 1,000 gems. For this ultra rare Aston Martin DB5, that's going to be the first drop. Now for the next drop. We've got a blind box for two different secret rares here. They still get the first edition stamp, just like I said, but it's a series 2 now. And the difference between this and the ultra rare is the edition amounts as well as the animations. The first secret rare sees 507 editions and a list price of 1,007 gems. That's massive, and it's the most expensive NFT on VeVe for that list price. But 507 editions, you'll be so lucky if you get one of these. Not to mention the next one. But with this, you're gonna see it animated with the emerging minis from the headlamps, opening doors and steering wheels being animated for this one and the next one. And the difference between that secret rare and this secret rare is the edition numbers as well as the license plate. We're gonna see 7 editions for that next secret rare. And this is comparable to the James Bond movie tickets that also saw 7 editions. Again, secret rare, first edition, and the difference difference being is that you get the James Bond 007 license plate to this, as well as the rarity of having 7 editions, and the animations that go along with that. So how do you set a price prediction for something so rare and probably going to be so sought after? First off, if you get one of these 507 editions of the initial secret rare or 7 editions of the other secret rare, the question is, do you list it? Do you sell it? Do you hold on to it? How do you go about selling something like this? If you look at the movie tickets for the 007 that saw 7 editions, I think one listed for 300,000 as what I've heard, and it sold for around that. But if you go on a Comey Wiki, there's no history of that. One listed for 3,333,000 apparently, according to that. But with this rarity, you really have to evaluate where you are, what you're thinking about doing with it. Is it something that you're interested in collecting long-term? Are you long-term bullish on VeVe and NFTs? So many variables to consider, but ultimately if you get it, that's definitely a blessing. So how do you set a price prediction for something like this? It gets extremely tricky, and don't take my advice for any of my price predictions or anything that you hear on this channel. This is me just talking through what I think. You need to do your own price predictions and use your own logic and knowledge to be able to come about a number that you feel comfortable with. With this low edition amounts, you definitely see a lower market of people that are interested in paying for something like this. So finding a buyer is going to be difficult. Not impossible, especially depending on what you listed for that floor price, but more difficult. So here's what I'm going to compare this to. We've got the Ghostbusters gold logo that saw only 188 editions. The last one sold for 24,000 and the current floor price is 28,000. We've got Donnie the Unicorn. There's 150 editions for Donnie. The last one sold for 150,000 and the current floor price is 130,000. We've got the Spider-Man secret rare. We see 1,000 editions. The last one sold for 53,000 and the current floor price is 51,000. And just to throw a car in there, but I don't think it's worth comparing, is the DeLorean ultra rare, 12,500 editions. The last one sold for 650. And I could go on with secret rares, ultra rares, rares with low edition numbers to start to add more things to compare this to, but I'm going to stick with what we've talked about. For example, I could bring up the Coca-Cola secret rare, snow globe, but I'm going to stick with what we've got because low editions is really what we're looking for, not necessarily rarity, but low edition numbers. And with what I've already brought up here, we've got the difference between FA and FEs with this. And remember, I think that FAs are more valuable over FEs, not because FA versus FE, but because FAs are characters. And I think more people are willing to put money into characters that they feel emotionally attached to versus objects or items that they might feel an emotional connection to. But if anything was to break that, it would be a car, because car enthusiasts definitely feel an emotional attachment to that vehicle, especially something like this vehicle. And that's going to bring me to my reasoning behind what I'm thinking this is going to sell for. I think the initial secret rare is going to see a price around 30 to 40,000 in that short term. So the Ghostbuster logo I think has a smaller audience for it, but it does see lower edition numbers. That's what it's got going for it. So I definitely think this car is going to outrank that one in terms of pricing. Now with Donnie the Unicorn and Spider-Man, that's a little bit more difficult to compare to because those are characters, not collectibles. But sticking with that Spider-Man having 1,000 editions, about double what this car is going to have, I don't think it's out of the question to think that the car will come in just a little bit below where that Spider-Man floor is sitting at. Which brings me to the final thing that I'm going to compare, and that is the secret rare that'll see 7 editions. This one, if you get, you're probably looking at lining up a buyer outside of the app and then maybe coordinating somehow within the app or whatever that looks like. I have no idea. Because like I said, the market for this is going to be so specific. There's going to be only so many buyers for something like this. And with only one other collectible being the movie tickets that see 7 editions, it's so hard to compare this to anything. So my price prediction is definitely more than 100,000. Donnie the Unicorn would be the next thing to compare to, being 150 editions of it. Last one sold for 150,000. I definitely think this is going to outrank that one. 300,000 is definitely not out of the question for this, and then even more than that exceeding, especially if you find the right buyer. Who knows what that looks like long term, and in the short term, good luck to you in able to get any of these. I'd love to know your game plan for these. Leave it in the comment section below. Let me know your thoughts on this drop. What are you thinking? Are you even going for this, or is this out of your reach? If you found this video at all helpful, please give it a like. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. That really helps me get this channel out there if that's what you would want to see. And thank you so much for watching.